Jason, what I liked about what you just said was you had this subtle shift. When sometimes we get stuck, we get focused on the things that we're not doing well, the things that were, on the spreadsheet that I should have gotten off, that email that I should have gotten off. And that's what you were talking about a second ago. But this is at focusing on my strengths, almost like Strength Finder, saying this is where I'm at my best, which gets me moving.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I got to study for quite a bit of time in university. My second master's degree was studying self-talk and the impact of self-talk on performance. And it's not a replacement. Look, I'm not saying that we don't look at the negative. I'm not saying to exclude our weaknesses, because there's absolute research behind that. All I'm asking folks to do is to add in where they are on, add in where they got momentum. This month in our coaching program, we're studying the topic of resilience. And a lot of people apply resilience to a major life trauma, major life change. And look, we all have stories. Every single person listening to this has a story in their life of either them or someone they know of beating the odds, of fighting through a big thing. I tell a story in some of my speeches about a 6-month window where my stepmom and then my grandma and then my aunt all diagnosed with breast cancer in the same 6 months, Govind. I mean, it was this major life change that made me look at perspective in life. And look, those are the big ones. What I'm talking about is the everyday bounce back that we need. You get in the car, you drive to the office, you see 2 accidents along the way, it's bumper to bumper traffic, you get pulled over by an officer and they give you a warning. Like, every single one of those stressors gives us the opportunity to bounce back. And so from a psychographic, from a psychological viewpoint, all I'm asking people to do is to allow in the acknowledgement that, look, I'm making progress. It kind of goes back to that direction and destination. I don't only have one or the other, but with that destination goal, right? So today I'm going to write 5,000 words. The direction is, and I'm going to do 2 interviews of people that I've never talked to before. So now I'm in direction, finding out some information. Look, I talked to the right person for the right 15 minutes, and those 5,000 words will fly. I talk to the wrong person for a half an hour, and I might get even further stuck.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I understand the psychology, which is step 1.
So now,
step 2.
So step 2, then, these are all ologies, so I can remember them. They're a little bit easier. The second one I look at is sociology. So there's some great materials out there right now on I was reading that book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Very popular book, amazing TED speaker. So I started unpacking. I go, well, what changes the why? Where did the why come from in the first place? And I'm telling you, I keep coming back to this baseline of who. My who can change what I think, what I believe in, what I go for, what I don't yet know about. I figure, Govind, I'm always one uncomfortable eye contact away from a new best friend, but I have to make that uncomfortable eye contact. So when I'm thinking about momentum and I think of the word sociology, I just have one question for everybody listening to this. Who are you going to hang out with next? On your calendar, you probably already have someone that you're going to meet with this afternoon. On your weekend plan, you probably already have someone that you're going to go out with. And my question to you is that person the conversationalist? I was going to say the conversant. Is that person the conversationalist who's going to take you to that next level? My life changed going back in about 2000. Well, we started the company in 2007. 2008, I added the first mentor to my little circle, the first mentor who was earning $1 million a year in referral fees. So this guy had set up a work environment where $1 million a year was coming into him based on what he'd already done. That fundamentally shifted what I thought was possible. And I'm telling you, I'll be very transparent. It up-leveled my why, because all of a sudden I could step more into purpose because I had this another perspective from him. So the activity that I could give, because I know I like to give solid things for people to do, we're going to do a mind map. So pull out a piece of paper, put your name in the middle of that thing, and then like bicycle spokes coming out, let's just find 10 people that over the next year, these are the 10 people that you want to influence you, you want to go to for counsel, you want to be able to go to them, throw a prompt out, and know that they're going to help you move towards that point of direction and destination, the point of momentum.
Yeah, and I think there's so much around this in the sense that who you spend your time with can dictate the future, and I totally get that, and I love the fact that you've wrapped it up in an ology, sociology. Okay, so let's go to number 3, technology. How does that fit?
So all of a sudden, I'm thinking some things. That's the psychology. I've got a plan, got direction, got destination. Sociology, I'm surrounding myself by people who are going to support me, lift me up, encourage me, hold me accountable. The technology, that's when I start talking about tracking, systematizing, optimizing the workflow. So, for example, when you sit down to make a to-do list, all the to-do list is some kind of a tracking mechanism to know what I thought and who I promised things to. So I think of technology less as screen size, battery life, and cord length. I think of technology as any tool that's going to help you track your way, hold yourself accountable along the way towards success. So if, for example, I have a couple of things that I do with folks. If someone's a drawer, a note taker, like you, if someone says, hey, pull out a napkin and put your philosophy on a napkin, I know I need a pen in my hand and a piece of paper nearby. I might have someone go to a whiteboard and have them draw out the next 12 months for me. Let me just see what's in your head. Let's use that tool. I've got a couple of folks who love to talk their way through things. So I started doing this. Every Get Momentum member, every month, we have a one-on-one phone call. And what I've done with a few of them is before our one-to-one phone call, they have to do a 5-minute video presentation to me just on some recording device on the computer. But I need to hear what's in their head for 300 seconds because I know some people figure things out while they're talking. So essentially, when you think of technology, back up for a moment, and it's not just smartphones and email, calendars online. It's literally, how am I going to utilize the tools, the systems, the gear I have to track my way towards success?
And that's a different spin on technology, because when you said technology, I immediately went to, blippity blips in front of my eyes, and I didn't see at all where you're going to go with that. So I like that it's all about tracking. I love that it's all about measuring our progress. But what's really neat about what you said along the measurements, you didn't actually say measure yourself against that stake in the ground which was next to time. You were speaking all about relative measures, and it was I think that was really deliberate and intentional.
Yeah. There's 3 questions that I've asked myself at the end of every day. I've done this since 1996. For many of those years, I've written the answers to these questions out. I travel with it's a moleskin journal. It's about the size of your hand, and it's 365 pages long, so it's 1 page per day. And there's 3 questions that I've asked myself. The first question, what did I complete today? The second question, who can I acknowledge today? And the third question is, what am I grateful for today? Now, the reason I make such a big deal about this is because everything's relative. Everything is relative. I might have a stake in the ground. I might have a flag that I'm marching toward, but that was still relative to who and how and where I was when I thought of that stake in the ground. And I heard a saying recently that I'm sticking with, but someone said, look, the guy with no shoes complains until he sees the guy with no feet. Now, at the end of the day, all of us, our head hits the pillow and we ask the one question that every American asks. And I speak about America because this is where I live and this is the country I know the most. But every American asks himself this question at the end of the day. Was I me today? That's it. Was I me as a husband? Was I me as a friend? Was I me as a son? Was I me as a company? Was I me as an author? And I tried and I worked and I brainstormed and I came up with these 3 questions that would let me know, hey, Jason, you were you. You finished this. You acknowledge that person and you're grateful for that. Now, here's the side benefit of writing the answers to these questions down. I can now look back over a decade and I can pull up August 12th of 2003. and go, well, what did I complete that day? And who did I acknowledge that day? And what was I grateful for that day? You know what's crazy is I see things that I go, oh my gosh, I thought that was such a big deal back in 2003. It's nothing now. And the power that gives me is the thing that I think is a big thing today, the thing that I think is hard and huge and all encompassing. Guess what I'm going to think about it 15 years from now? That was a little thing. And there's a psychology term that I'd love to leave everybody with as they're listening to this. The one that I fall back on, the psychology term is cognitive dissonance. And for those of us who've studied this, it makes total sense. But essentially, cognitive dissonance is our ability to notice the gap. That a project manager, a company owner, an entrepreneur, I mean, look, what started an entrepreneur on their path was they found a problem. They found a need in the market and they thought that they could fill that need. They're built to find something that's off and something that's out. And the people that are built to find something that's off and something that's out, we have to challenge ourselves even further to find out what was right and what was on.
Yeah, and it's I love the shift, the intentional shift toward where I'm great, what am I great at, what am I grateful for, and I think that as entrepreneurs we get just stuck in the muck, but the muck is in our heads, and I can think of that for myself. I can think of that when I speak to other entrepreneurs, but we go through this tremendous period of acceleration. We go through amazing stages where we're really pounding on stuff and getting it done, like flying fast. We're not focused on those things. We're focused on those areas of momentum. But it's amazing also that how quickly that can fall off. So I love how intentional this daily ritual is to aligning yourself along those priorities as well. You spoke about this ritual, these 3 questions that you ask yourself, and I think you said you did it at the end of every day. You know, let's talk about in your momentum preparation. What's your morning routine like?
Morning routine is just trying to think. You and I, you know this. We run an international company, so I'm just as likely to start getting emails at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't check my emails at 2 and 3 o'clock and 4 in the morning. I know for me, I'm at my best when early in the day, 2 things have happened. Number 1, I've sat quietly on the floor and did some stretching. I'm from California, call it meditating if you want. I also know I'm at my best when I kick something out into my world that will move the mission forward. And I'm a huge fan of Google Alerts. I set up a Google Alert, Govind, that has my client name. So I serve about maybe a dozen clients, a dozen companies that I support. And what I did is I set up a Google Alert that's a client name, and then it's the word promote. But I misspelled it, right? So PROMOT. So anytime, call it Acme Corporation, promotes, is promoting, has promoted, is running a promotion, anytime someone in that company's been promoted, I get an alert. So sometime early in the morning, I'm either going to kick something out that moves the mission forward, or I'm going to send some kind of acknowledgement out into the world. Hey, you're doing good. Keep on going. I started following the Twitter feed of the clients that I support, big organizations, military organizations, big churches, schools, banks, hospitals. And every now and then on the Twitter feed, that company will recognize an employee. So I'll pull out a note, like a literal handwritten note card, just acknowledging that person for what they did. I don't sign my last name to a lot of my thank you cards, and I don't put a business card in a lot of my thank you cards. I just end it with Jason. And what I found is that this process of pausing for 300 seconds, right? It's 5 minutes. But when I pause and I put that out there, I don't even know if they'll ever get that card because of the way the mail works. But for 300 seconds, the world was good. The world was right. I was on course. I was doing something great. I do have a lot of people, Govind, who say, oh my gosh, Jason, how do you have time to do all that stuff? Well, first of all, I teach this. So I'm kind of known in the productivity circle. But also the energy I get from acknowledging someone for doing great work, the energy I get for noticing when things are on, it probably gets during the day, I get twice as much work done in half the time.
Yeah, and for me, and you just fired yourself up. Even just talking about your morning routine, just talking about what you do, you got fired up. I could see you just lit up. You just lit up. And I think for me, it's the same thing. I run a morning routine. I think that what's really interesting about everybody who comes on Paper Napkin Wisdom is they're very disciplined about their mornings, and that gives them amazing momentum to get unstuck, to get moving, to get from here to there, and to grease it up so there's as little friction as possible. Hey, Jason, our time is up for today, but I'm telling you, we got a lot more to talk about. I hope I can bring you back. What do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've got a couple more stories to share the next time.
That sounds great. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Hey, if you liked that episode, there's a ton more like it on iTunes. Just search Paper Napkin Wisdom. Go to papernapkinwisdom.com to find the blog and pictures of all of the paper napkins. Plus, you can also follow along on Facebook, find Paper Napkin Wisdom on Twitter at Wise Napkin. My name is Govind Jayaraman. This is Paper Napkin Wisdom. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day.